All right, I don't know if these lights need to be dim, but I want to show you something just to kick this off. It's a little video, and I think it's almost a metaphor for human life, because there's so much in life that's actually good for us, but we're often afraid to take the first step. We're afraid to take the plunge. So have a look at this and see if you find this as inspirational as I do. It's a young girl about to go down a ski slope, and she's never done it before.
Be fine. I'll do it. Well, here goes something, I guess. Okay, you can do this. I'm gonna jump.
You got it.
Whoa, my ski's slipping off.
Just remember, never snowplow, okay?
Here.
The longer you wait, you'll be more scared.
I go. Yeah!
I actually think there's a lot in life that's like that. And for many people, church is like that. And we recently sent off, Johnny might be interested, we sent off Reese and Jody off to northwest Western Australia. This is a couple that came into our church. Their life was a mess. Drugs and alcohol, and there was domestic violence, and it was just a horrible situation. And Reese had got in his car and was determined that he wasn't going to end up alive within the next hour. He's just going to find a tree or a cliff or something, and it was just all too hard. He got in his car, and for some reason, somehow, he must have hit scan or something on his radio, and it landed on a radio station where I was speaking. And he heard something, and as he was driving down the road, he pulled his car over and cried out to the God that he didn't even know, even if he existed. And then the next Sunday, he and Jody turned up in church. And you knew they did not know what they were doing. You just knew it. You knew they weren't Christians. You knew it because they were 15 minutes early. And we just sent them off in full-time ministry after 5 years of discipleship. And it's such a great story. But they said, as we were commissioning them to go and work among an Aboriginal community in Fitzroy Crossing, they said, this is what Reese said, the hardest thing I ever did in my life was walk into a church for the first time. It was like being at the top of the ski lift. And we just think, oh, well, this is easy. Yeah, it is. And it's probably going to be easy for her the next time too. So let's just be aware of that this is not always an easy thing for people. We're going to. I said I'm going to be anchoring this in John chapter 8, so you might want to just sort of hold that there. And I want to introduce this, and as Judy mentioned, it is a little bit of a follow-on from what I did with you last time, and I'm going to be asking some questions. And again, the way I preach is I sort of do some of it, and you do most of it. So as I ask these questions, you'll see a lot of questions will come on the screen. I do want you to think about it. I want you to reflect on this, because we are increasingly now swimming in a sea of broken people. And when I say broken people, it is just, as a pastor, there are sometimes I have people come and see me, and I can say this because I'm 3,000 miles from home, but I have some people come and see me and explain the situation they're in, and after I finish with them, I just think, I honestly didn't think there was any more ways you could mess up your life, and I've just learned a few. The things that happen to people, as we'll talk about in a moment, that end up breaking them, the things of life that end up breaking people. And I want to ask this question, What does a broken person look like? Well, to state the obvious, a broken person is a hurting person. So when we talk about a broken person, we're talking about a hurting person. They also, often I've discovered this, and this might help you, this might give you some insight, and I hope it does, that a broken, hurting person is often an angry person. And I've discovered whenever I meet an angry person, it's easy to feel like they're angry at me. And I've realised that often they already came in angry. They're just looking for someone to unleash on. And so a broken, hurting, angry or broken person generally is also a bitter person. They'll if you get talking with them, they'll often rehearse a hurt, which is a symptom of bitterness. So they'll tell you about, you'll get in conversation with someone, someone's name may come up and they might go, "Oh, if only you knew what they'd done to me." And they rehearse hurt, and that's a sign of bitterness. By the way, I think forgiveness is the cure for bitterness, and that simply means you release someone from your right to take revenge. It doesn't mean you ever have to trust them again, and that's one of the things I often say to people, because in some Christian circles there is a lot of confusion about this. So they're often depressed. It's difficult for them to be happy. A broken person does not have a lot of reasons to be happy. You can see as I describe this, we all know people like this. We live in a world where we go to work where we see this in people. We live in a world where we go to school, we see people like this. We meet people like this all the time. And broken people are often lonely people. And it just amazes me. As much as I said before, if you are on Instagram, please take a photo. It's fine. Record a little video. I don't mind at all. All this is called social media. And it's designed to connect people. But you and I both know, one of the major epidemics in Australia right now and in Brisbane is loneliness. It is staggering how many people are friendly but have no friends. Loneliness. And often when a broken person has had so many bricks thrown at them that instead of ducking, they've caught them and just built a wall. And so on the wall they put a smiley face and they look friendly, but you can't get in. So they're often lonely and they're confused as to why they haven't got any friends. So the causes of brokenness, when we think, what causes a person to become like this? It often comes from grief. I've seen people go through grief, and as a pastor, you have to walk with people through grief, and you realise that life is not always a bed of roses. Stuff happens. When I became a pastor, the very first funeral I did was for a couple who had come to Christ through all things Amway. They'd gone to an Amway meeting and somebody had said at the Amway meeting, you might get the biggest bank balance, you might have all the stuff, but if you're spiritually bankrupt, it means nothing. And they just, okay, well, we better deal with that. And they turned up in church and got saved. And she was about 8 months pregnant. She looked about 16 months pregnant, but she was 8 months pregnant. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that, but anyway. I've learnt not to comment on pregnant people, especially the ones that aren't. I can tell you stories how I think I can just see out of this eye this week now. Anyway. And, we went through discipleship with them and this is all new and we were there the day after she gave birth and I got a call that there was a problem. And the baby had hydrocephalus and it was a part of a human foot and mouth disease and she was handed her son and he died in her arms 12 minutes after birth. I'm a new pastor. I'm in my 20s and this is now my first funeral. We had something that looked like a big shoebox as the coffin. And I've learned that life as much as its victory and its triumph and its glory in this side of the tapestry. If you understand, God's painting a picture, but he does it in tapestry. On this side, have you ever seen tapestry? There's just lots of threads, and it's just looked like I can't even see a picture in this. But on his side, it's a perfect picture. And in the midst of the tangled web of threads that's all dark and all the rest of it, you cry out to God as a young 20-something pastor, and you, God, what on earth do I say in this situation? And God just comforts, and he does comfort, and words do comfort, but brokenness sometimes comes from grief when people don't handle it well. And you never say to someone who's grieving, hey, listen, it's been 2 months, you should be over it by now. If you don't slap them, I will. That's just crazy stuff. You know, grief can take years. And if you haven't grieved with tears, you probably haven't grieved. If you haven't gone through an angry phase, you haven't grieved. You can't, and eventually you come out the other side where you realise it's happened. Anyway, that's a whole other sermon. You'll have to invite me back for that one. But here we go. What else causes brokenness? I want you to watch this. This is the story of, I think it's a couple of Brisbane boys who formed a band and went to America, and it just taken off for King and Country. And this is, illness can cause brokenness. So I want you to watch this, and the song that he wrote together with his wife. You'll figure it.
Without You is probably the most honest, difficult song that I've ever had to write, because I got very, very sick at one point, and my wife.
A little love, a little, and hope a little more. And yes, that's the most. A little love, a little, and hope a little more. 'Cause I don't wanna live without you. No, I don't wanna live without you. Without you.
Brokenness can come from grief. It can also come from abuse. Judy and I were in a seminar on Thursday, and some of the stories that you hear, and some of the stories we've been hearing of abuse, some of the stories that I've heard. We recently had a 17-year-old girl come to our church, and it was remarkably not long before she said, I do not have a mother or a father. And as I got talking, her mum had died, and in tragic circumstances, avoidable tragic circumstances, and her dad couldn't take it anymore and came down to the school, and she was in the class and found a tree just outside her classroom and hung himself in front of her. She'd been made a ward of the state, and within weeks she was being sexually abused by her carers. And you just think, man, our children's pastor works with some situations where you just think, what what is going on? What is going on? Two children, very quiet, don't mix well, don't socialise well, and police did a raid on their house to find that both parents were sexually abusing their own children, videoing it, and selling it on the internet. Abuse. Brokenness comes from rejection. And this has got to be one of the most painful things a human being can experience. Let's flip this a little bit. This is all introduction to John 8, believe it or not. But we look at broken people and understand that they crave acceptance. They crave acceptance. I haven't watched The Simpsons for a little while now, you'll be pleased to know, but there was one episode where Homer Simpson met the mother that he didn't think he had. And in this thing, he's carrying on like a little boy. Not that you could tell, because anyway. And he's doing things, look at me, mum, look at me, mum. And I thought, these guys are doing something so profound, the average person's just looking at it and laughing. I'm not laughing. I'm thinking there are people who are like this. They crave a mother or a father to say, I'm proud of you, son. I love you. And people who are broken crave it. We all want it, but when you're broken, you crave it. And this is what I've discovered. Broken people often tend to live promiscuously because they think, and because of the confusion, that physical touch and physical affection and sexual intimacy is actually always love. And it's not. But the confusion is that they think it is. And so if they get this, it will heal their brokenness. Because I agree, intuitively they know, and this is what I agree with, love heals brokenness. It does. Broken people often celebrate their brokenness. And I was walking around the Hyperdome yesterday because I wanted to go for a walk and I didn't want to do it in this blistering heat. So I went to an air-conditioned place. And there's a guy in front of me. I almost thought I'm going to take... I had already packed my camera in my backpack, but he had I am godless on the back of his T-shirt. And I thought, people in Brisbane broadcast it. I mean, they actually have T-shirts for this. I've never known that you guys needed T-shirts for this. They're obviously godless. And now they've got T-shirts just to confirm it. People celebrate their brokenness. And I had to look at this guy and I think, what has happened to you? What is your story? And this is how I think. You must have a story. So they celebrate their brokenness. And can I say, and this, please don't misunderstand me. Please, please, please. I've already offended every pregnant woman here. I just don't want to offend. There's a whole other category of people. But can I just say, from the safety of being behind this pulpit, and remember, this is my reminder, Scripture tells you have to love me. You don't have to like me, you have to love me. So let me say, I have seen people who have tattoos in places that you just can't not look away, because often they're right across here. I'm seeing more girls now with big tattoos right across here, and I don't know where I'm supposed to look. And it'll say something like murder, death, killed anyone who looks here. Something, I don't know. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is not just art, is it, sweetie? This is not just art. This is a cry. And please, if you have a tattoo, that's snaps to you, but this is not... I just noticed that some people celebrate their brokenness and often it looks very visual. So people often display their brokenness as well. Of course, the flip side of it is that some people try to hide their brokenness, and people can do that with a smile, by dressing nicely. Women have the advantage of putting on makeup. There's not much us blokes can do, you know. It's just ugly from the get-go. And But here's now as we sort of get really, really close to John 8, here's how Jesus Christ sees your brokenness. So come with me now into John chapter 8. We'll pick it up in verse 2, which in many Bibles is verse 1 anyway. Early in the morning, he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. Verse 3. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now in the law of Moses, it commands us to stone such a woman. So what do you say?" This they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down, wrote with his finger on the ground. And as they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. And when they heard it, someone must have read it out, I'm guessing. Be interesting to know what he wrote, wouldn't it? Someone said he wrote the names of all the women they're having an adulterous affair with. I don't know. But whatever he wrote, someone read it out, and it says, and when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones, and Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Here's a broken woman. So it says, Jesus stood up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" Here's my visual of this. I'm not going to lie down, because in this instance, it's not Jesus in the dirt. It's the woman. And we know Jesus wore a cloak, and he had a tunic and a cloak. And we know, I'm guessing, because she was caught in the act of adultery. I'm not trying to be pornographic here, but you got the idea? She was in the act, and she's in the dirt now, and I'm thinking he took off his cloak. Woman, as he covers her up and gives her some dignity, takes her hand, lifts her up, touches her. Woman, where are your accusers? Where are they? Has no one condemned you? And she said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on sin no more." This is just so powerful, because you've got a woman caught in the act of adultery. She knew she was caught. She knew she was condemned. I don't condemn you. Now go and sin no more. I'm wondering if that's not a bad message for Brisbane. I'm wondering if that's not a bad message for the hundreds of thousands of people in this city who are broken. Let me just wrap this up, and in a moment I want to finish with this follow-up song to these two guys, King and Country, who were recently featured on Good Morning America. And I want to look at the story of the Good Samaritan. You know the story. I hope you know the story. Man on a road, gets beaten and robbed, and then you've got passers-by, then you've got the priests, and then you've got the Levites, and then you've got a Samaritan, his sworn enemy, who cares for him and takes him on his own donkey at his own inconvenience to an inn and gives the innkeeper gold and silver to look after this man. So you know the story. So let's just look at this. The passers-by in this story, or let's say the wounded man, for a start, is broken people. Then we've got the passers-by, the people who said, I haven't got time to deal with this now. The passers-by are the busy people. And can I say that, someone recently said to me, Satan really had a go at me the other day. I said, I don't know if he needs to. You can stoof your life up so beautifully without the devil even needing to get involved. He actually thinks it's quite efficient just to leave you be. There are some people, I think the enemy is quite happy if you're busy. Because when you're busy, you don't see people. I do it all the time. I get busy and I don't see people. So let's be mindful in this story. There are passers-by and they're too busy to help. Let's think about the Samaritan. Who is the Samaritan in this story? I think the Samaritan is Jesus. The Samaritan was not like them. He was not welcome in their territory. Jesus was not like them. He was not welcome in their territory. He was despised. And Jesus takes this wounded man, this Samaritan takes the wounded man at his inconvenience. You see, I don't know, you pray for this church to grow, do you not? Can I just see a hand if you pray for this church to grow? One of the other hands. Anyway, we are. But here's you know what the answer to that prayer looks like? Massive inconvenience. Massive inconvenience. Now, how many are prepared to continue to pray for this church to grow? Half. 2/3 of the originals. But it is. Here's this man taken on the donkey to the innkeeper. Jesus is like the Samaritan, but the innkeeper is the church. It's us. We're not the Samaritan in this picture. Jesus is. We're the inn. He wants to bring the wounded, the broken, the rejected, the lonely, the hurt, the damaged, the confused, the lost into this place. He'll even pay us to help them. He'll provide. He will. Will we do what he said? Here he is, look after him. And if there's any other expense associated with looking after him, I'll provide it. We're the church. We're the inn. And this is what you need to know as I tie all of this together. John 8, this poor woman who Jesus saw as a broken woman, worthy of dignity, not worthy of the scorn that these men were giving her. And he gives her dignity. And quite arguably, she was the woman that came in and wept all over his feet. This is how Jesus sees people. And this is what we need to know about Jesus, that he heals the hurt and the broken and the lost and the damaged. He brings healing. He saves, heals and restores. And I want to just give me 3 verses out of Matthew where he said this, and this is quoting from Eugene Peterson's Bible. Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take real rest. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn how to live freely and lightly. We're supposed to be the inn. And to do that, we've got to keep our eyes on the Samaritan, that Jesus. We've got to fix our eyes on him. In this last song I want to show you, even though Luke wasn't quite through his healing, through the chemo and all the medicines and so on he was on, he wrote this song. Hit rewind, click delete, stand face to face with the younger me, all of the mistakes, all of the heartbreak. Here's what I'd do differently. I'd love like I'm not scared, give when it's not fair, live life for another, take time for a brother, fight for the weak one, speak out for freedom, find faith in the battle, stand tall, but above it all, I would fix my eyes on you, on you. I learned the lines and talked the talk. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. But the road less travelled is hard to walk. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. It takes a soldier who knows his orders to walk the walk I'm supposed to walk. And I'd love like I'm not scared, give when it's not fair, live life for another, take time for a brother, fight for the weak one, speak out for freedom, find faith in the battle, stand tall, but above all, I'd fix my eyes on you, on you. This is how he said it. Will you? Father, I pray for the Rock Christian Church that we would be the inn. We would be a church that fixes our eyes on you. That, Father, as you bring in the hurting, the lost, and the damaged, the confused, and the broken, that, Father, as you cause this church to swell, Lord, with massive inconvenience, that, Father, we'll step up and we will fight for the weak ones. We will love when it's not fair. And we will fix our eyes on you. And everyone said, Amen. God bless you.